If it's something I learned in recent years, is that creative control for creators is not optional, but a must. Too many times have I seen the downfall and deliberate destruction of so many beloved properties, passed down or simply hijacked, mishandled by those who don't share anywhere near the same passion as the creator themselves, whether it's Disney with Marvel, Amazon with Lord of the Rings, Netflix with Tomb Raider, Disney with Indiana Jones, Warner Bros. With current DC, Disney with Star Wars. Geez, Disney, like a brand you truly have to go out of your way to destroy. All of these beloved properties of the West that have been celebrated and beloved for decades, but due to bad faith opportunists have been turned into trash, vehicles to push personal worldviews or agendas to the point they seem like infomercials rather than entertainment, no longer to be sought out, leaving a void in the market to be desired. And what has filled that void? Anime, manga, and Japanese content overall leading the charge, which is why I'm highly concerned about this Sony and Kadokawa situation. Now, I'm sure most of you know that Kadokawa is one of the biggest manga and anime publishers, especially for the genre of isekai, when it comes to Sword Art, ReZero, or Delicious in Dungeon, which really surprised me how good that was. I was not expecting that. Uzaki-chan, I didn't even know they owned that. I remember that causing a big stir because, beautiful, shapely women are not allowed to be depicted in the West nowadays. And now I know Sony is a Japanese company, but this is where it gets complicated. For some time now, Sony of America has been making the big decisions over Sony of Japan, with there no longer being a headquarters in Japan itself, but only in California now, which just sounds stupid to me. Trying to appeal to the Western dollar, so I can understand the motivation, but it lacked any foresight. If it's one piece of advice I would give to Eastern creators or devs, do not set up shop anywhere in the West right now. This isn't the 90s or early 2000s where these partnerships actually shared a similar interest and love for what they were working on, or at least profit motivated in the least. But the people in charge these days making the decisions in these Western divisions are only ideologically driven, which leads to purposeful failures rather than accidental failures. And what do I mean by that? It's one thing to go public, have investors put money into your company who now have a say, wanting the best for the product to sell, so even if they become out of touch and fail, at least they were looking to achieve success, but have become too distant from what the consumer base wants anymore, versus knowing what the consumer base wants and deliberately going in the opposite direction despite it, and that's a purposeful failure. And that's where you get decisions like Concord to be made, a $500 million budget product that was scrapped after just 10 days. They truly thought that was going to be the next Star Wars. My 8-year-old nephew could have told you that would have failed. Like, what the hell were they thinking? But remember, these are people who are ideologically driven. That's all they care about. And shout out to Endymion for the Inside Connect, because it was only Sony of Japan that forced Sony to trash that garbage, which has now led to conflict and infighting between the two. Japan has been highly upset with the recent failed game Sony of America has put out, which is why I say creative control is a must nowadays. But in attempts to appeal to that Western dollar, they have been misled by those in the company, knowingly out of touch, but have convinced Japan they know what the people want, causing them to leave their own Japanese consumer base behind, not aiming to cater to them at all. But Japan is slowly waking up. Like, for instance, Square Enix firing everyone in their Western division. Best decision any Eastern company could make right now. And I hope Sony of Japan gain full or majority control again. So even if Sony buys Kadokawa, I'm worried they'll gain control over some of the best manga and anime. Not just able to license it, but able to tamper with the creative process, changing stories or characters at the inception or beginning stages, becoming outvoted by Sony of America, leading to horrible decision making that has already destroyed so many properties like Star Wars, Marvel, and all the others I mentioned earlier. I'm concerned that will happen to manga and anime and start power tripping with censorship, something they've been looking to do to anime for the longest, but with enough votes in the company, they could actually do now. Because maybe that woman character is too attractive, so make them a bit ugly. Or maybe that man character is too masculine and that's just too toxic nowadays. Or maybe that joke is too offensive, so just edit that out. And maybe this story is too traditional, so make it appease to the modern audience, which is basically no one, sucking the fun and love out of everything we find entertaining in anime, and this is my worry. Now, here's the problem. Due to recent laws passed in Japan, allowing foreign entities to buy out Japanese companies and businesses, Kadokawa is worried about being bought out by Tencent, a Chinese company, or Microsoft, which would be horrible, and wanting to be bought by Sony so they can at least remain a Japanese company, which I do understand, so it's almost like you're making the best out of the worst. I would just hope that they will root out Sony of America and rid them from any decision making because they had truly showed their hand. Now, regardless of country of origin, anyone is susceptible to putting money over the creative, and Japan is guilty of this as well. The co-founder of Kadokawa, Suguhiko Kadokawa, I went to a Japanese language, I should know how to do this. Suguhiko Kadokawa himself was adamant on keeping the company independent himself, but was forced to resign as head of the company in 2022, with the new head now looking to entertain the idea of selling and who was pro-censorship, willing to appeal to Google and Apple, which is such a bad self-sabotaging decision, which is why I say creative control is a must. Now, at least he did apologize to the Japanese consumer base for even considering such an idiotic idea, and that just speaks to that really does speak to the Japanese culture of humility. At least they listen to their fans. Trying to get these narcissistic, egotistic elitists over here to do the same would be like pulling teeth, so I can at least admire that. Now, I am aware of the dilemma that going public leads to growth, with the possibility of huge popularity and wealth to be made. But I just see a pattern of it leading to the deterioration of so many creative properties in the long run, which is why I have huge respect for Miyazaki. He's very stern of who to leave Studio Ghibli to, and I don't blame him. He's smart, because these aren't trivial decisions. This is your legacy of creative works that will be remembered for centuries to come, but if mishandled, could be forgotten in a generation, truly. So wise decisions must be made in these circumstances. So overall, like I said, this is all complicated. I would wish Kadokawa to be independent, but that's a lost cause at this point. So if Sony bought it, at least it remains Japanese in origin, but still so many red flags raised regardless. But I made a prediction last January. Within the next few years, I do see the independent creative markets flourishing, learning from all the mistakes of these big companies, mishandling beloved properties, and seeing them destroyed in real time. So I truly believe the independent artists will prevail from all of this. But that's all I have for this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you haven't already, check out my music on Spotify, link in the description. If you enjoy those Samurai Champloo lo-fi mellow boom bap vibes, then my music is definitely for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Free think, peace.